Last question for you both. Looking for some optimistic little rays of sunshine out there. I'm keen to hear from both of you. Is there a leader in the world today who you believe exemplifies being an inclusive leader? Who is it and why?
And I'm going to leap in case you have the same one. To me, Justin Trudeau, it's like, can I please clone him? Just a simple question. Why, when he became Prime Minister of Canada and they asked why did he have 50% of women in his cabinet, and he just looked almost aghast because it's 2015. But not only that, if you delve to the next layer, there are 2 Aboriginals on his cabinet. There is 1 person with a disability. There are 4 people of Sikh heritage. There's 1 person who came to Canada as a refugee. He's actually got people with skills. He's got a legal person who's looking after the legal part of the cabinet. And he's got someone who has a wealth of experience in medicine, handling health. So the more I delve into that and the more I see things he does, he just seems to get it. And every time I see him on the TV, I think, he's just said it right again. You know, he hasn't shot himself in the foot yet because he's so good. I'm kind of waiting for sometime it's all going to fall apart. And I have to say, I was living in Canada when his father was also Prime Minister. And that was a great experience as well. And he came from Pierre Trudeau. He came from a French background, so he certainly had the opportunity to feel excluded growing up in Quebec. And, you know, he brought a lot to Canada then, and it appears that his son has inherited many of the things. But as Justin says, I don't want to talk about what I got from my father. I want to talk about the Canada that we produce for Canadians. And we will rule by cabinet, and we will do the things that we have heard from the people over the last 3 years that Canada needs to do to be great.
Thanks,
That's
Di.
the politics I want.
Okay. Thanks, Di. And look, I know there are lots of people that Facebook and tweet often about the fact that they'd like to move to Canada, and let's see how we all feel about that on Sunday. David, a leader in the world today that you find might be getting close to this inclusive leadership ideal?
Oh, look, I'm not going to actually name an individual. I think that there are people like Justin Trudeau, but there are also many others. I actually think that our lives are being shaped by millions of men and women who will never be identified in the public mind as leaders, but who live lives of dignity and quiet, unrecognised heroism that shapes families, shapes community groups, shapes our societies. And sometimes we recognise them. I mean, I think, you know, the Australia Day Awards get their criticism, but it's an opportunity for people to be raised to public consciousness. We have the Australia Day Honours. We have other means by which we recognise women of influence or people who contribute. And they're moving ahead. I think what defines them and perhaps some political leaders or leaders in the corporate world or elsewhere, they are the leaders who are not shaped by what will necessarily happen during their tenure, what will happen after they finish, and what they do during their tenure to ensure that that future is as prosperous and as inclusive as is possible. And when you have that as a frame of reference, people tend to stand out.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people out there that we
Absolutely
interact with, and I'm sure everyone in this audience has someone in their mind. We recently sent out a Facebook post and asked people to come back with some stories on inclusive leaders that they knew within their companies and organisations, and we had some delightful stories come back and, you know, engage with those people. It's pretty cool to see that there are some great local stories as well.